Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AARPG's Leftovers podcast. And this is our mystery episode. So, what do you mean by mystery? Let me move this back a little bit. I got to get a camera. Did I ever tell you folks that? The mystery is we don't know what the episode's about. Actually, we do have an idea what the episode is about. I should be joined later by a couple of my gaming friends, and we're going to talk about some of the systems we played that just didn't work out for various reasons. Things that didn't go right, problems with systems, things like that, or whatever else comes up. Like I always say, that's what we do. So, that being said, as I'm here by myself, going solo, I'm going to talk about the various stages of D&D, right? Because they're coming out with a new one. And I just want to just remind anybody, we're at like 90. Well, let me back up a second. If you like our podcast, follow, like, and subscribe. We're at 996 subscribers. We're getting near that 1,000 mark. I want to thank everybody who's been listening to Nathan and Matt's interviews at Gen Con and been enjoying our podcast. I appreciate that, and we all appreciate that, and we hope you enjoy us. Now, back, and of course, these are pods for the people. Anyway, welcome everyone, and I started D&D. Oh, who's Carl's here? You actually jumped right on. Good seeing you. So it's just me solo right now, my friend. Somebody else get on later, but we're going to talk about games. I was talking about D&D basically, and the various iterations. I started with the original box, right, which only had like the four class. Like, was it Druid? No, I don't even know if they have Druid. It was like a wizard, fighter, cleric, magic user. I think there was a Druid, but then they had an illusionist of all things. I think that's disappeared around second edition, third edition. I can't even remember. Then it came out. Then there was the various iterations. I think third edition gets the most gas from most people because it had. I think that's when they were trying to develop it more. 5e, which is an interesting system. Oh, wait a minute! I'm about to be added upon. Hello.
Oh, hey! Did you already start?
Yeah, I started, man. We are in it. I've been going solo. Me and Who's Carl's been here.
Nice. All right. There you go.
I did the opening, and I was talking about the theme being games, some games we played where we had problems with, and not necessarily crapping on the game system, where we just didn't know the system when we started it. And I was talking about the various iterations of D&D, and how we start with the basic set, and then I don't know which. Everybody has a different opinion of which edition was the worst. I think mine was like 3E. Everybody must have most problems with that, I remember. And talking about the current one, and even they're going to a brand new thing, which nobody's even sure what it is yet. I was just touching on that way. I knew you were going to jump on, so I'm just killing time, basically, folks, because this was the mystery episode.
It still is the mystery episode. I don't think anything's changed with that. With me jumping on.
So we didn't do much prep this week because most of us have kids, me and Matt especially, and this is either school starting or school's about to start, right? For mysteries, this is a good one. For mysteries, it's almost never the game system, it's the adventure. That's right. And I will say this, Pods for, did you hit that, Matt, Pods for people?
I did not.
Oh, it came up on its own. So
that's you and Chris's crazy.
Yes, that's crazy. Our crazy resistance. No, you mean Chris Chavera? You mean?
Yeah.
So we were. God, I lost my train of thought. That's not hard. I'm old, but anyway, I have a son, and he's 12, and he's getting ready to go to school, and it's been a very busy week for me. He's getting this golf award on the 17th. It's pretty cool, and he, by the way, plays D&D. He plays the 5e, by the way, which is interesting, right? So I don't know. For me,
that actually might be a good idea for a future episode for this. I was thinking about, like, how do you approach, what are the different approaches to passing the hobby on, right?
Well, that's a good.
So,
Yeah, it is.
so if your kid plays, I know my kids both play, not all the time, but they do. In fact, they both when they went away to camp, it was interesting. Both of their camps, that was one of the things that's offered. I can't even imagine that as a
When we
teenager.
were kids, oh no.
Well, not
was
only
Satan.
would you not, well, not just that, it was also,
Yes, it was. We were the
not-
devil. We're devil children.
well, you also weren't gonna
Brag
be
about it.
cool.
No,
right?
that's true.
And so it's interesting to see that these camps actually offer like something that they can sign up for as D&D sessions and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool.
So my son's school has a D&D club, and then they did D&D at the school for summer camp as well. Now he's getting into golf, so that's his focus. But he played D&D with his friends. We use D&D Beyond for that, and it's actually very helpful, I think, for kids going into like learning and not learning a system, and just having a bad false start, which we've had a few of in some games. We did a Morkborg, remember that, on the Geek Weekend? We never got past the characters because we didn't do it. So I don't think you'd ever rolled up characters before. None of us had rolled it up, so it turned into we got more drunk than we did get with the characters.
Well, yeah, to be honest, at first we did go the second year, we did play Morkborg.
Yeah, we did the second year, but
the first year, honestly, wasn't so much that the rules are hard because Morkborg is a fairly rules light. It was just, I was, this is
we didn't know what we were doing, man.
When you're too drunk to play Morkborg,
Yeah.
I think that's a bad thing.
It's fun. I mean, it is. If you get a chance to play more, it is fun. It's unique. It's random, Jesus. But we had it was like that mystery that, drunk Borg, perfectly. Exactly.
Right.
That's what it was.
That's exactly what it was.
And it was. But we had a good time, and it was a fun game. But that first year, we even had fun failing, I want to say, because we had fun making the characters. So an impediment to you making a good game is getting intoxicated or any other sort of mood-enhancing substance you may use, I should say. Now, I'm not encouraging anything, but, some people, do different things.
As far as like it kind of jumped. So the kid thing, we should probably kind of revisit that because I know I didn't really think about it much. Like I've thought about it. Like I'm one of those people that doesn't push my things, my obsessions on my kids, right?
Yeah, you should change that because that just sounds wrong. Initially, push
Well,
my things.
I don't push my obsessions on my kids. So things like Star Wars, right, or even D&D, they've been exposed to them. They see me play them. They've seen us, friends come over to the house and play. Yeah. And so there's that. So some of that interest, I want them to be interested on their own, right, and not. I can definitely say one of the big differences, and I think I'd like to say it's age, but my daughter is now older than I was when I started playing.
Yeah.
One big difference is like she definitely likes to play, but like I remember when I was that age, when I got my hands on the rule books, I like read them front to back, and I read them front to back again and again and again. I just remember voraciously reading all of the content. And so it's a little different because they've got some of these online tools and stuff. So she builds her characters digitally. She's got a little program to create art, for her characters and stuff like that. Her little, so it's just, but like I've tried to like here's some books, right, right, and they're not as deep into the reading of the stuff, but they do enjoy playing. But
yeah,
we really wasn't sure, like, because D&D 5th edition is pretty easy, but it's also pretty complicated. It's a lot of rules. And so it was during the pandemic, I discovered a game. I'm going to have to take a look. I'm going to have to, like, wheel over here and take a look.
Go ahead, wheel over there.
It was a really cool, very basic rules set, kind of like Risk. But it was for D&D stuff, and we actually found an online, a place online that was for homeschooling, right? Traditionally, which we don't do, but they also were offering this game, sessions of this game. And what was nice about it, it was age restricted, because I think I tried to play online. I played online with my daughter a few years ago, and it was with a bunch of us, but I didn't know that it was strangers. We got onto a thing,
Yeah.
we got on there, and it was like one of those pay to play, whatever, 10, $15 to play. But it was all adults. And so they were like kind of walking on eggshells, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
but having this other service out there, where it was kind of age fenced, I knew that like my kids could play with kids that were their own age, right? And kind of their exposure to it. I gotta take a look.
Go take a look. So, interesting. Who's Carl? Your comment about the Lego and RPGs with your kids. Sometimes they roll into it. Like my son, I got him the stuff, but he really didn't start getting into it like when he was in. It's more like in the last couple of years when he hit his teen years. I think also with I don't know your age, but I know with me and Matt, everything was in books. So for us now, to the computer, you can jump. You don't have to read the whole book because there's like D&D Beyond. I'll give with D&D credit for setting up a good system, very player friendly. I don't know how the new system's going to be. I hear mixed things about it. And if anybody who follows us knows, we don't play that much D&D. Our niche is checking different game systems. We do a lot of free league stuff, honestly, which is fun. But we also will do the mothership's game system, or Savage Worlds, right? And each of them has its drawbacks. Savage Worlds has its pros and cons. All of them have their pros and cons. Point based versus dice rolling, all that stuff. Just say no to Wiz, bro.
Well,
Well, yeah. Wizbro, you mean Wizards of the Coast? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, considering they're bought by Hasbro, there's a lot. We got to wait and see, right? But it put a sour taste in everybody's mouth months ago, which when they started monetizing and changing things in that system, and there was a blowback
when
to
they
that.
changed the agreement. For
Yeah, they changed the
open
agreement,
license, right?
and they weren't going to. They had ownership of your characters, and I'm like, okay, listen, that's especially in America, we're so big about freedom, America. I am. I know we all are to some extent, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of privacy. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. So I
just
think that
it was a change where you had creators who are able to create off of
Yeah.
the old license. We're going to see their earnings were going to be cut into. Yeah, it's a real, for me, D&D is kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because you've got some of these business decisions that
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
about
agree
profit.
with, which, I'll be the first to make everybody angry, but that's what businesses are supposed to do, right?
it is what they're
Right?
supposed to do, but there's a drawback to it.
And so I will admit that, but I still love D&D.
I do.
So,
Yeah.
I'd say you talk about which is the worst system, and I was actually having this conversation with one of the kids today.
It was
I
that.
know a lot
So
of
let me
people
let me
didn't
clarify
like
that,
fourth
Matt.
edition.
I mean, worst system, or by it can be any number of reasons. It could, you just don't like the dice. It may not just
Right.
because. Yeah,
I think ones that people didn't like a lot was fourth edition.
maybe that's what I'm
And-
thinking of.
In fourth edition, so I think what they tried to do in fourth edition, and I think they're trying to do that again. So, will they repeat? So fourth edition was really designed. If you go back and read the rule book, some of the words they used, and everything, they were definitely trying to capture the Worlds of Warcraft crowd, right? The MMO crowd, the EverQuest crowd, and get them into D&D. And again, it wasn't a super popular version of the game. I will say though that even systems that aren't super popular can still add good things to the cumulative advance. And I would say for me, I think, and unless I'm wrong, if I remember it wrong, I have to go back and read. Fourth edition, I think, really changed the way spellcasters were played.
Yes.
Because it was the first time where spellcasters, because I think they started using cards or something. It was the first time that a spellcaster got a spell that they could attack with every single round. Right? It did
Yeah,
no more
but that wasn't the
damage than a
point-based
regular-
system. That wasn't the point-based system, right?
No,
We
one
had
point,
so
but
many.
Nope. It was just that you could cast a spell and do
Okay.
D4 or D6, and that has traveled into fifth edition as cantrips, right? So almost every spellcaster class has some little can, especially like wizards have a little cantrip they can cast every round forever, as many times as they want. That does like a D4, D6, whatever. And so it changed it because it used to be when you had a wizard, you'd memorize your spells.
Oh yeah.
And if you're
The
low
night
level,
before.
you might have like 2 or 3 spells. Maybe you get that magic missile off, maybe a sleep spell, but then you're done for the day and you're 4 hit points, 5 hit points, you're hiding behind everybody.
If you're lucky.
That's not super fun play. So giving, all of the classes some sort of ability at scale to do something every round. Again, other people might not like it. I actually think it was a good thing. So, and that kind of came out of there. And so even in an overall system that I think a lot of people panned, I still think there was innovation and creativity in it. And what I don't know is if, is the new version trying to go after like the Baldur's Gate crowd, right? The people who are only playing role-playing games.
Yeah, we don't know.
On video games and stuff. And I'm not sure.
I mean, all the 5e stuff will still be up there. I think all the stuff we own. I hope if they say, "Well, sorry, tough shit," you can download it. I'm going to be like, "Okay, there goes my subscription," because I kept it running for my
like
son.
D&D Beyond, yeah, that's an interesting one. I hadn't thought about that because I was using that and tying it into Roll20 for like my encounter creators and all that. They may or may not. That is interesting. I mean, we still have the books.
Yeah.
But
I have I have a lot of stuff online. I'd have to download them. And at which point I'd rather have a book. So I'm like you, I like to be able to flip a page, and I don't like. But anywho, that's interesting. So for me, I want to talk about Palladium, our favorite game system. So old school Palladium, the thing which I thought we had a lot of fun with actually.
Do you mean like Palladium, the fantasy Palladium, or
fantasy versus like Rifts and all that? Because remember SDC and MDC. So
yeah.
I remember we played fantasy Palladium. I thought it was not bad a system, but SDC was a bit of a pain in the ass because it was sort of like your armor rating's 13, and you have 100 SDC points, which is structural damage capacity. For anybody who plays that, MDC's mega damage capacity. That's like freaking buildings and stuff. So it was supposed to be. Somebody throws a rock at you, and you're in plate armor, you would still take damage to your SDC. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in fucking power armor or something, And that drove me crazy. When we played the Rifts game, thankfully everything was MDC, and if your armor rating, the way it was written, if you had good armor, if the rolls were below your armor rating, tell me if I'm wrong, you didn't take damage to your armor, if I'm not mistaken, because it wouldn't blow through, because if it does, yeah.
So I think it's weird. There's Palladium's got a couple different variations on when they don't use armor rating, right? In a system where there's armor rating, anything below doesn't go through.
Yeah,
right?
Which I thought was pretty cool.
In some of the Palladiums, it didn't matter. It was like if you fired an MDC weapon and it hit you, your armor took damage. There wasn't like an armor rating, not in all of the systems. And I can't remember which ones had it, which ones didn't. So if you want to roll back, so the fantasy game, right? So
you're gonna pull your fantasy book out, aren't you?
Well, this is what I get.
If you could find it. I like Rifts, guys. I like Palladium. One of the reasons that they did a lot of different things like Rifts, and if you're not familiar with Rifts, it's like fantasy and sci-fi. They did a lot of cool things. They had Beyond the Supernatural, which was could be a Cthulhu-esque game almost, along the lines of like horror and like old school Gothic horror could be. There was also, but you could have power. There we go, Palladium role playing game. That's it, guys.
So this was their fantasy game,
Yep.
And what was interesting about this game is probably one of their most balanced games, which doesn't say a lot because Palladium doesn't really care about balance. But what was interesting in this one was having played like D&D, where it's like you swing and you hit or you swing and you miss.
Yeah.
Palladium, their fantasy game, introduced, for good or bad, this idea of like parrying and dodging.
Yep, I remember
Right,
that.
that you could have actions where just because someone hit you, you could roll a parry. Now we do that now in Dragonbane has that, where you can sacrifice your action that round to either evade an attack or parry it. But that was something very different, and it kind of promised, again, good or bad, longer fights, right?
Yes, it did. Yeah, oh yeah. Palladium had Robotech. Robotech fights were long, guys.
Right.
We would spend a night fighting and way into the evening because we were all like young, working part-time jobs, or some of us going to college, and it was just interesting. I thought Palladium did a good job of expanding their tastes. Like they had so many different things, and then you had this cool. There we
It's hard
go.
to see, but like each of these tables is a
Oh my
different
God.
combat style, right?
Yep.
So it's not so much like, okay, I fight and you fight. And it's not kind of like you have like feats and stuff like that. Now you actually have like a style. So you might have hand to hand soldier or hand to hand mercenary, right? And they're gonna progress and have different kinds of bonuses based on what the authors thought, like hand to hand bowman, right? I love the long bowman in the old Palladium, very deadly class, right? It's also a D100 system, I believe,
Yeah.
for skills.
Yeah, I think it
right?
is.
Yeah.
It's a D100 for skills. The skills are 100 to percentile. I remember that. I remember Malcolm being very frustrated at times having to look up stuff because everybody had so much different crap, especially in his
Well,
Robotech game.
well, yeah.
So,
So you can have overload in, well, Palladium gives you lots of options.
yeah. And
You
we
get
had
all
fun with
kinds
it,
of
but then,
great old art,
yeah, some of the art's great.
you know.
And some of the games had cool things like, and beyond supernatural, you could have it was disbelief. Your power of disbelief was so strong, it could like stop a vampire from like biting you or something. It was crazy. There were some
The
cool
Nega
perks to
Psychic.
it. Yeah, the Nega,
The Nega Psychic.
that was one of the funnest games I ever played with you.
Didn't
Matt
Al
ran,
play the
by the way.
Nega Psychic? Who
No, I
played
did.
Oh, you played the Nega Psychic.
I
Okay.
did. It was awesome. I played me as a Nega Psychic, basically, because I didn't believe in ghosts or anything. I'm like, this is all bullshit. And he said, you should play this. And I did. I basically played me as a Nega Psychic, and we had such a good time. So, even with the disadvantages of that game, especially being a games master, we talk about that. We still had fun with it, though. I mean, some of the game systems can get very complicated. Champions. If anybody's ever played Champions, Champions is a point-based superheroes game. In the original Champions, you have advantages and disadvantages that can make you really, really tough. Like we had a guy who had a stun-only killing attack, and because we didn't have it, nobody could kill in the game, and it was my friend James, and he created this attack, and he held on to it to this big fight. We're fighting the big bad, and he had this guy called Honor Guard, and he hit the guy. And, most people had like 20 health or something like that. They could be stunned. He did like 130 or 40 freaking stun in one shot because it was stun only. So he had all these and that's a disadvantage. And he added that with this and that and low point build. And he laid the freaking one of the main villains out. And the DM lost his crap. It was Dave. He lost his shit. And he just started going, what? And then my friend Roy, who was also, he was a bowman shooting like ricochet bows, hitting people. But those games we had to the advantage of that game is you can create a monster. The disadvantage of that game is you can create a monster and it just unbalances the game. So we had to make
With the
we had to
champions, yeah. So
yeah we had to make a combat rating. A friend of mine found somebody who made a combat rating. And you had to it kept you from getting out of hand. That was fun, but it was so unbalanced. We just overwhelmed the games master. So he just sort of shut us all down, and like my character got taken out real quick. I was playing a Hulk guy and I hit somebody so hard I bent him in half, and he just punished me. What do you got there, Matt?
Oh no, I was just gonna say. So in going with the sort of the Palladium kind of thing, another thing that I think is interesting about Palladium is that was different, and even to this day I prefer over D&D. I know there's a lot of discussions nowadays about alignments, right, and stuff like
Oh yeah,
that.
not so much anymore. I don't
It's
think.
not. It's not. Well, it's
Well,
kind
I
of like
mean,
every
you
now
can
and
be
then
lawful good and D
someone
and
will
D.
drop
They yeah, but they
Twitter
made
and it goes crazy.
well they made it very optional. At least in I know in Dungeons and Dragons they made it like well you could be lawful good but not have to do this and this based on your. They made it very fuzzy, so you give you a little flexibility. But go ahead with your argument.
I would say, well, no, is I like the Palladium alignments a lot better.
Oh yeah, they were
I
good.
thought that they were broader in scale, so or scope, so that it kind of encompassed. Because the ones in D&D, it's kind of like you're lawful good, right? And then a lot of connotation is that you're trapped in a very narrow behavior,
Oh, I
right?
hated that. Yeah.
And so if you're looking at so and I would probably say the equivalent to that in Palladium is called principled,
Yep.
right?
I
And so
remember
again,
that.
you're not right, and so it's little things like here: always keep your word, avoid lies, right? So less black and white, right? A little never kill or attack an unarmed foe, never harm an innocent, never torture for any reason, never kill for pleasure, always help others, work well in a group, respect authority, law, self-discipline, and honor, and never betray a friend. So that's their most restrictive, and you can see there's even wiggle room in there where it's like don't kill for pleasure. It doesn't say you can't kill. Don't
Well,
try to avoid lying, right? But
well,
if you're
Matt
trying to
Vulcan. It's Vulcans never lie. Remember that in Star Trek, but they freaking work around that. That's basically what you're saying there. So
right.
I'm a Star Trek geek. Sorry. So,
Yeah,
but
and it kind of goes down from scrupulous, right? Which is kind of like, a person who's good, but they'll bend the rules to
they're
do
bending the
things, to
rules.
like unscrupulous is more of like your Han Solo who shoots first, right?
It actually says that in there, doesn't it?
I don't know if let's see.
I think it does.
Unscrupulous. What's funny about Oh no, I'm sorry, not unscrupulous. I'm sorry, I misread. It is called
Unprincipled.
unprincipled, not
Un-
unscrupulous. Unprincipled. What's funny about unprincipled is it has never betray a friend,
yeah.
right? So that's an interesting twist, right? But then it has high regard for life and freedom, keep his keep his word of honor, not don't lie, but it's kind of almost like the what do you call it? Like the honor among thieves
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Keep your word.
right? Yeah, not
That's even good. It's
not
even
kill
going.
an
Keep your.
unarmed foe.
Yeah.
It's just so right, and it goes all the way down to diabolic, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Diabolic's pretty dark.
diabolic is rarely keep his word, lie and cheat to anyone, most certainly attack and kill an unarmed foe, use, hurt, kill an innocent without a second thought or for pleasure. So it's bad. Oh, so but it's a each of these alignments are a little broader, a little more wiggle room, and I kind of felt they kind of seemed to, I don't know, better. They were a little better
I
thoughtful than the D&D ones, which were again I find them to be they're
well
very
earlier.
restrictive.
You're right. Earlier on, it was very like I played a lawful good somebody, and you get a prick dungeon master, and they can use that shit against you. Like, okay, the guy just killed 6 babies, and he throws this. I surrender. You can't kill him now. You're a paladin. Like, no, I can kill him. He just murdered a bunch, and if you do that, you'll no longer be a paladin. Like, which I've heard that argument, and I'm going, that makes absolutely no sense. The guy was committed an atrocity. Why wouldn't he kill him? Wouldn't it be a good thing? Well, he surrendered. I guess what that it's just so narrow. Like all good, lawful good people have to act exactly the same. So did you ever play Pendragon, Matt?
I have not. So
So
we
we don't.
just got.
Yeah,
So talk about Pendragon. So
yeah.
we just got the new We got the Pendragon Player's Guide and another book, but Nathan's got them. He picked
So
them
yeah,
up at
we
Gen
can't check
Con,
because
and
who's
I
Carl
have
saying
not had a
it has a
chance.
vice virtue system for alignment.
Oh,
Best
okay.
alignment system is vice virtue per his quote. So we're gonna have to check that out. Which
Yeah,
is
when
vice
Nathan
virtue.
gets done reading that, we'll have to. I'll have to borrow it because I got to finish reading this the Cthulhu Gaslight.
Oh yeah, it's which I can't wait to see that. I doubt that system has anything with alignment. It probably just has character. Those systems have character development. That's all. Most point systems are. I mean, really, there's not a lot of systems that actually have alignment. If you think about it.
I think what happens, so it's not alignment. So what happens in things like GURPS and some of these other games like Champions, you can take as a disadvantage a code of like ethics.
A code,
right?
Yes.
A code, right? And it's funny. It's like, oh, it's a disadvantage. Well, it's because in theory you take it, you get negative points, but it's because it's constraining your character's behavior, right? So in D&D you might have, or one of these like in this one it might say will not kill an unarmed foe, right? But in GURPS you'd get bonus points by taking a code saying
Yes.
will not kill an unarmed foe, right? That's because you're placing a restriction on your character. The game mechanics rewards you for that restriction by giving you extra build points.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of build your own moral code if you wanted to. So again, that's good or bad, but that gives the player kind of a way to self-impose restrictions instead of having a blanket, by the game itself. Hey, you must choose one of these things.
Yeah. So I guess depending on what you're playing, is what's better. So if you're playing using what we just talked about in Palladium, it gives you a lot more leeway, right? Because you don't have a code per se. You could just develop your own code based on that alignment. Whereas in GURPS or Champions, most people know GURPS too. You can assign certain disadvantages because there are disadvantages technically, so you can get technically on paper where it gives you like some sort of things you have to do, or which you get penalized on if your character doesn't do, by the way. Because the games master will cut points from your character, and you need them points, especially in GURPS. 1 point can take you a long way sometimes. So that's interesting. I don't know. So with what is the worst false start we've had with the game system where nobody? Do you remember where we just totally went face down like when we started because we didn't know what we were doing? Oh, Malcolm Ross.
Oh my goodness! Look at that. Oh, did you just?
We both hit at the same time.
Yeah.
Point systems tend to require greater chance. Excuse me. Let me start over. Point systems tend to require greater character building investment on the code, ethics, motivations, and fears of the character. This motherfucker sounds more elegant writing than I even talk. I mean that as a Samuel L. Jackson.
It's because he
comment.
is.
True.
Well, no, that's true. That's what I say is that right when you're developing the code and the player kind of owns it, right? That's probably going to mean more to the character during play. If they take an oath in character creation, especially, it's also really good because if you take an oath or something like that, or you have a promise, that's what's that term? A knife, or that's a hook that the GM can use.
That's the hook
for story development.
That's
right?
the term.
So
yeah.
if you've got an oath to protect an old monastery or something like that, great. That monastery is going to get attacked, right?
Yeah. I must protect the sacred grove of wine. That shit's going to be burned in like season 2, and you're going to be on Vengeance Quest.
So it's a good. It's more motivating to self-impose or self-create that sort of thing than to have it kind of layered on. And I think D&D's tried that. So if you look at some of the new paladins, I mean, this was one of those things that I kind of experimented with in running the Sex, Drugs, and Saving Throws. You guys go to a lawful gooder kingdom, or gooder, right? A lawful good kingdom, and it'd been really easy for me to fall into the trap of, it's like, oh, they say they're good, but they're not good, right? That's they were
good.
It's like, oh, they look really perfect, but in the background they're really evil. I was trying to figure out how do you have that kind of where the people really are good as people can be, right? Like genuinely
they're good, but they're
people,
yes.
But there's this level of righteousness, right?
Who hubris in their goodness, like
Yes, right.
that pride for we're so good, we are gooder than you people in the South. I understand. Even the guy you set up as our antagonist wasn't actually a bad person. They believed what they believed, and at the end, by the end of the game, we realized that they were actually, well, we were the bad guys.
Well, it is. I don't know if people. So
I
I don't
think we
know.
were the
Maybe
bad
it wasn't.
guys.
But there is the scene at the toward the end where you sit and talk with him.
Yes,
He actually, you guys think he's like gonna like, oh, I know why you're here.
it's coming.
And
It's coming.
it's
Yeah.
coming, and he basically says, oh man, you really put me in my place, and we've been wrong, and we should probably help you, and all this stuff, and then everything goes to
It's too late because it was
'cause
too
he's
late.
busy robbing his quarters.
Yeah,
So-
Hulgrim's like, oh wait a minute, this guy's. Then it just goes to like Hulgrim's my character in the game, and at the end, this is how south it went. We sort of thought we were doing the right thing, but remember we're playing '80s rockers. So at the game ends, and Matt does okay. After this quote arc, what do you do? And what did I say? I said Hulgrim just realizes that we're maybe the bad guys, and one of his best friends might be stealing babies, so he just leaves. And that's when we got the song "We're the Bad Guys." That was the episode. I think we added the
right at the final episode we got to close. Thankfully, the Bard City let us use their song, the bad guys, or are we the bad guys?
yeah, and
yeah.
and it's going to be interesting going into for me, for at least for my character development. I already have a plan. I think Matt does, but before we play again, I want to preface something with Matt for the character. It's just going to be fun, but that because we didn't. Yeah, it was interesting. The alignment thing was interesting in that because you threw us a curveball in a sense, and we thought they were not that, that we thought they were like lawful neutral or just lawful full of themselves. And it turned,
that's where you guys came from. So that was the other fun thing too, is that the main city that you guys are in, right? It's lawful neutral, and I had never really thought much about lawful neutral until that whole game came out of a game that a friend of mine's friend ran, and it's the city where the monsters are coming in, right? So we played that prologue, right? As like and
we
basically
do.
every single character, right? So every single character in the game that I played in are just people who came to the city, but it's a lawful neutral city, and so at some point we all ended up breaking a law because there's so many laws for everything. And we all got roped into the guard service. And so that was the game that I played in. That set the seed for the world that I eventually set the sex, drugs, and saving throws in. And this idea of this like lawful neutral city, which was like, it wasn't evil, but it was really like police state kind of.
It's like Judge Dredd, right? Judge, you've broken the law. There's no empathy. It's just like you've broken the law. We're going to do this. And period. And I'm just, which had I not been playing a freaking barbarian halfling, I'm playing some of my other characters, but I really dug it. But I thought that was really good. You do come with some. I will say this: you do come up with some curveballs, more intellectual. Not to say Malcolm doesn't come up with intellectual curveballs, but yours sometimes sting a little bit more. So, because Malcolm's are eloquent, or like an eloquent flick of a blade. Yours is like the slow knife in the dark that just comes out and stabs you. And Nathan's, by the way, if Nathan's listening, he was going to try and jump on. Yours are just like fucked up. I don't know how else to say it. You do
Nathan, I don't know.
Nathan's like crazy.
Canada.
He does stuff sideways, man. But anyway, that's an interesting thing about using a lie. That's which we talked about some of the things you hate, and like we're sort of talking about for stuff that could be a challenge, but you turn it into a bonus in that state. And like Malcolm said, like with like playing into Greg, you can get good dynamic development. And that goes back to what Adam said, like making people develop. Like when we had him on last week, some of the things we do to develop character alignment versus disadvantages, or let's say oaths, whatever term you want to use. Each of them has their pros and cons. One One gives you a lot more freedom than the other. One sort of dials you into something and makes you work around it, I think. I think we've all gotten creative with that, Matt, where we've gotten something disadvantaged and we've turned it on its ear and made something great out of it, right?
Well, most in literature or stories, it's the flawed hero that's much more interesting, right? It's the
Yeah, I'm sorry.
slow, cold knife in the dark.
The slender, quick blade. So I'm wondering if Malcolm's been drinking, because this wholly sounds like I've been drinking, Malcolm. The slow,
He's
cold
definitely
knife.
more eloquent. Malcolm speaks like I bowl after drinking. I get better to a certain point. He's got his. He sounds very flourishy tonight. We're two simpletons up here.
Yeah, I'm a hammer. I can't. I haven't run a game, but I think I don't know how I'd act if I might be more of a hammer. I think if guys do stuff, I might make it rain hell. I don't know. I haven't been there yet. It's coming.
Maybe you'll be a big softy. I don't know. Who knows?
I might.
Never know
No, I don't think I will. I think, I'm gaming the system. Yes, you are gaming the system. Now the system's going to game you. But it's.
Well, alignments are an interesting one because I know I don't know if is it official? Like they're pulling alignments from like the different monster species and stuff like that. I get it. I don't. So
nothing's.
I view alignments. They say like orcs, right? So let's take orcs. Orcs are evil. I don't.
Well, it was based on
drill
Tolkien,
down.
right? It was based on the Tolkien
right?
orcs, right? So yeah.
It
So
was,
and that's different now.
Those were elves
that got
right,
corrupted.
That were corrupted by Sauron.
Yes.
So there's that already built into them, or the ones that Sauron designed. He bred them for like war and all that stuff, right? I kind of sometimes look at that as it's not like every individual person is that alignment. It's just that if you have a society that's brutal, right? Like take like Drow society in the old books. It's like reverse world. What was that? The Star Trek, right? Remember they have.
Oh yes,
the old Star Trek?
through the mirror darkly.
Right, and so the way in that society, the way you get promoted is you murder the person in front of you, right ahead of you. So that's not good, and so I don't think that they see themselves or an individual person as it's just. Sometimes I think these alignments, it's almost more of like indicative of like the cultural society is how, like, if it's just brutal and strength rules and, that you take power by killing somebody, I don't know if I think that's great.
I think the game, so in the game, any master creator, like the orcs of Bowel Island, they're just a brutal, this evil, D&D sort of, I don't know what Wizards Coast doing. They're just sort of they're just not trying to generalize anything as evil anymore. They're getting away from sort of the traditional things, and it's been going that way for a while, though. I mean, especially with the races, it's almost like too much sometimes. I'm like, you could play I don't know, whatever the hell, something. You're playing a centaur, like a centaur. Okay, like, all right, I mean, give it a shot. It's just a nice one.
Well, I think, like, right, and so there's nothing to say in your game that you can't make things anything you want. Like I said, I have an old homebrew D&D thing I ran where like the dwarves had been ages ago had been driven from their underground lairs, right?
Yeah.
Forced to live on the surface, and they're refugees. Who do they get food and stuff from? The halflings. And in my game, the halflings are like the Sicilian families. They live on the coast, they control shipping, and basically the dwarves were refugees. And the halflings took them in, but they kind of treat them as like second class, So the halflings are not the jolly, smoke a leaf, a pipe, whatever, right? They are like the Sicilian. So you can take your difference. You could do whatever you want in your game. Yeah. And so if you want, the orcs to be more just sort of on par as just another civilized group. Just do it.
Well, you did it with like the half orc. Remember, the first foray with it was half orcs, I think, when you could play a half orc, in which we're dating ourselves here. But and I think it was with the Drizzard Doer it was the Drow. They tried to make them more. I want to say it was the Drizzard Deward books, I'm not pronouncing it right, but it was
I know,
based
I
on
can't say
D&D
that.
and
Yep.
that was the start of it. And people there have been discussions for a while, I think, about because old school D&D was very basic. You had basic races, this and that. Now we're at the point, Jesus Christ, I'd have to have a flow chart like on my whole wall for all the things you can play. That's a different game. That one's been around for a while. We're playing Dragonbane right now, which is very basic. It's more old school, very basic, which has its joys, but it can be unbalanced. You can have a Mallard wizard that freaking shoots lightning bolt that'll incinerate a freaking whatever, so which is fun, but sometimes like scary. And I found out I was rolling my damage wrong. I was shorting myself, by the way, Matt, about like it's 5 to 6 points a shot. So now now that we're almost done playing the game, I'm glad I know that. Moving to a system that relies on motivations rather than stock generalizations. God damn you, Malcolm. Is an attempt to be closer to the complexity encountered in the real. He's just doing this to fuck with us now. Moving to a system.
We totally agree.
We totally agree to whatever you just said to Malcolm. No, actually, it's that is a good comment. That is really good. And Darcy's ice pick comment was home, which I will put back up for our players tonight.
Well, this had to do
ice
with
picks do have their points.
right. This had to do with the plot hook kind of thing. I wish, and so my memory's so bad. I love getting old. I can't remember which podcast it was I was listening to. They talked about during the character creation, and maybe this was No Quest for the. Oh, I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to attribute to the wrong people, but they talked about having at least three knives in your back, right? And those knives are plot hooks, right? So it's kind of like when you're.
Oh, that's an interesting way of putting it.
So when you create a character, you need to have some things that make it interesting. Some sort of like, maybe you've done somebody wrong, or somebody's hunting you or something, right? And so those things allow the GM to create backstory, to create plot hooks. So yeah, it's having like a perfect character who's got nothing wrong in their past. You could do it, but it's not as interesting. No, I don't think doesn't have alignments.
No, they don't. It doesn't. But he's like he said, it has, you like not Hilgrim. Jesus Christ, who's my dwarf, who is not a halfling. My arrogant, haughty. So my dwarf is very haughty, and I built upon that, and I created his essence. Look, my essence. Oh, and that's my dwarf's voice. And his essence is the forge, because he's an artisan. So we built on that, and Malcolm especially built on it, because you're clean. The mud has washed away your essence. You don't feel right. And I'm like, oh, this is horrible. I feel oh, we need to go find a forge. So my character for the last 10 episodes has been trying to find a forge so he can write soot on him, But I think along to Malcolm's comment, you got to have some hook. You got to have something to build a character. I think we all agree with that. No matter what it is, either you create it or you get it from a disadvantage. I think that's what I think.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Dragonbane one. So, Dragonbane gives you the rewards basically, like, do you explore a new area? Did you defeat a foe? Those kinds of questions at the end, right? And poor Darg, who I've been playing, he has Gullible.
Yes, he still doesn't know what we're doing.
So that's oblivious. So he's also oblivious. I just have that in there. But nobody I never get to roll for that because nobody ever lies to him.
Hulgrim lied to him one time.
Hulgrim, wrong game.
Oh shit! Now, god damn it, my fucking dwarf. Hulgrim would lie to him. Yeah,
you can't keep your halflings and dwarves apart.
Shit. I know. God damn it! Now I'm fucking confused. So yeah, Malcolm did ruin your character's life with a throwaway statement about an ex-girlfriend in the game. I remember that. Yes, we were very dramatic in the Mobile game. We were so anime-like how our characters were developed. My character ended up dying for threw his life away for something.
You shot? I remember. It's one of the greatest moments in role playing ever because I've never seen anyone do anything. You killed
I
yourself.
killed
Your
myself.
guy.
That was my
because
first character.
Those no, it wasn't the Nare.
Sorbritai.
It was one of them. The ones who had the psychic powers. You
Malcolm, you're on there.
failed a
Remember, tell us what
save.
they were.
Yeah. You failed a save against mind control, and then you asked, "Can I off myself instead of attacking? Like it's the last thing in defiance. Can I just?" And Malcolm said, "Yeah." And so you did. I was like, and I remember,
He made me
like,
roll
holy
for
crap.
it, and I won the roll. And everybody's
Okay.
like, so my whole thing when early on playing games, and it drove people crazy. Is like I was
Akritan.
Akritan. Thank you, Malcolm. Akritan. They were the villains, man.
Oh yeah. Or
But
love
they-
interest if you were my character.
Yes, apparently. So my character, I like learning how to play a game by playing a character out of the book, because I just was impatient as shit. I just wanted to start playing. I didn't want to fucking roll a character. I wanted to play. So Malcolm's game was already going, and I'd been out for I don't know if I went in the Marines and I came back, and I said, "Hey, let me just play." And Malcolm's like, "You can play the sergeant." He was a sergeant, and I just played him, and they, yeah, I just basically like, no, fuck, this guy's hardcore. I'm gonna blow my own fucking brains out. And people were like, "You really did that?" I said, but then it was really cool. But then Malcolm made me roll a character up, so I had to sit there and learn how to roll a character up, which is what I had to fucking do, which is what he was it was the right thing to do, Malcolm. I appreciate that. Get me off my lazy ass and make me make a character. I actually started enjoying that later in life. Yes, that's right, Devil Dog. There we go. Yeah, my actions saved. Yeah, that's right. That's right. My actions actually saved the unit. Malcolm was going to waste half the unit, I think, or something like that. Because we were
You'd have been
losing.
attacking us.
We were losing. Yeah. But anywho, that was nice reminiscing. So, based along the lines of character development, see, a mystery. We got into something good here. Based along of using disadvantages, advantages, and stuff for character development. Those are the main ways of doing it. Unless you play a game with nothing and you either you got to do it yourself. I think you do it yourself when you're creating your character. Your games master, in case Matt or Malcolm, depending on the system you make, you take some, right? They make you take some and you have to play them. But having character flaws makes the game. It's like with the comments, I'm not going to go through all the comments here, but it's definitely makes the game more fun. It makes it more fun to have the character fail because of one of these disadvantages too, because it's the funniest damn thing in the world when you screw up and you fail and you have to do your weakness or whatever. You have a weakness to something such, like you're the character and you're following the guy who has the vial that's going to save everybody's lives, and he goes into a brothel and you're there and you have a weakness to women and you fail and you end up with this hot French anarchist. Darcy, I'm going to use that, and you play into it, and it just makes it all much more. Halflings is this is the comment Darcy put up. Oh, so always halflings is French anarchist society. You might be right, actually. There's something to say about that. I never thought about it that way. My halfling I've only ever played, though, Darcy, was a barbarian. So I don't think it was a curveball.
But you got to meet lots of other wonderful halflings who did like
yes.
bread a lot.
The pop. What the heck? The
Puffalus.
The Puffalus. The Puffalus. Oh, come, we shall meet and sing songs. Come, Pilgrim. Okay. All right. These are my people. I'll go with them. So, but I think the character, you do yourself a disservice if you don't give your character some fun things, quirks to play with. And you can have like a dark secret, like in our sex, drugs, and saving throws. If you've listened, everybody now knows that Tyr's character has something they're hiding. As anybody listening would know this. As players, we know it. The characters, of course, don't know it. And that's sort of it's a nice hint. It's a nice subtext that goes with the game. You had a character, Matt, in one game that was, God, what game was it? Might have been Golden Sparrow, like your priest. Remember when we did the
Yeah,
ceremony and put
guy.
that
Right.
guy had some weird shit going. But it's always good to have some sort of subplot going. So that really spices up a game because then when it starts to get out to the characters, you got to sort of play that. Okay, what's such and such up to? Can I trust them anymore? Can I do this? Can I do that? How would your character react? Right?
Well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, having a secret, it's I know talking about reminiscing so in the Rifts game, Greg's character hid the fact
That was
of what his
great.
character was for 2 seasons. It
Yep.
wasn't until the end of this, about around the second season, when his true nature, that he was a Cosmo Knight, was revealed.
Yeah, we were sort of pissed about that. It got out, but I can't blame Lee for doing it. Might have done it too, because when he revealed it, because that was like part of the character thing. It was in there that if you hid it, right? Was it in the character bio, like when you cosmonaut bio? I think.
So no, so with his character, so it's funny. That
His
whole
character
game
was-
was
his
heavily
character was great.
influenced. Is heavily influenced by me watching Babylon 5, right?
Yes,
They were
Babylon
two
5.
different things, right? Greg's character played he was a spacer, a regular old. He was this old guy, right, who had like this old magic weapon, and he was a space pilot. But it was when the woman jumped off the building and someone had to save her, he jumped up and flew and grabbed her, right? So he basically had to reveal himself
Yep.
from a plot twist. It was, so that was how his character is revealed. So, there's a lot of stuff we can go on. But I so tee up. So in the future, I do want to talk.
We
so we're
we
getting
have
close
4
to the
minutes,
end.
so if you want to tee something up, tee it up.
Yeah, I do. So a couple things. One, I just want to plug that we're at 996
96.
subscribers.
Yep.
So it doesn't. I will say hitting 1,000 subscribers doesn't do anything for us tangibly, but it will sure feel great. Like, we've been literally watching the numbers go up, like one here, one there. It's like watching grass grow.
It's jumped a lot
if you're
from last
watching
week.
this, well, yeah, the Gen Con stuff really helped.
Yeah.
Get us out in front of a lot of people.
Stop giving
but yeah,
Nathan credit. Stop
if
giving
you're
him credit.
if you're if you're watching these either live or recorded, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe, there's nothing greater than stoking the ego of stat watchers like myself and
Yeah.
and,
I don't care.
no, right. And
well, I do, but I
but-
don't. Yeah. So-
but yeah, so definitely, if you haven't, we'd appreciate it. And then, like, I finally found that thing. So if we do talk about stuff like that, like
Yes,
getting kids
yes.
into gaming. So this is the system,
Hero
called
Kids.
and they have this. They actually have a science fiction version of it, and it's super easy to learn. It's got surprisingly a lot of material. And it was the first role-playing game that my kids played before they were a little bit older and were able to play D&D. But it has a lot of the same themes and stuff like that. So I think maybe we'll probably do something like that here in the future. And that's
Yeah.
what I've got.
Well, yes. So, and I want to thank you for this compliment right here. We are a lot of fun. Well, the medication's kicked in. That's why. But yeah, no, I'm not that type of medication. But anyway, so thank you for that compliment, Darcy. So next week we're gonna come up with something else. But we have no problems talking. We will have other guests on. There's plans to bring other people on to talk. It's a little busy right now. I think once the school starts, we will reach out. I'm not the only person that does this. Matt pays a big piece on it. He puts out the banner for me with my head in that mask. By the way, that mask is a survival mask. It's in case of a biochemical attack, right?
Right.
That
It's
the
an
government.
escape hood.
It's an escape hood. It's good for 30 minutes. There was an expired one that Matt happened to come in contact with somehow, and I actually tried it on.
They were at my dad's house. He had like a bunch of them.
Did he really?
Well, he had a bunch of everything. but he had these old government escape hoods. It's like, and they're all expired, right?
Well, they probably were still pretty good. I mean, there's an expiration date, but they probably give it some protection. But was surprisingly effective for what it was, man. It literally fit over, made a good seal around your neck, and it was positive air. So it had a little fan pushing air through a filter. So it was actually better than my freaking riot mask I have back here.
Oh, so it actually had a little powered.
It was self-powered, and the battery was supposed to last.
Never opened one up.
Yeah, but it was supposed to last 30 minutes. That thing ran for 2 hours.
Wow, you should have.
And it was
worn it for one of these.
I know. Well, I threw it out because I just was like, "What am I going to do with this thing now?" Because the battery's dead. I'm not going to wear it around. It just gets hot. It's because it's
downside though. If there's a fire, the whole thing's it's just going to melt to your face.
That's why it's for chemical biological exposure.
Oh, okay.
So if it's a fire, you'd be better off in something like I have probably because it's that rubber. It's like that old military. Actually, it's a new military. Basically, it is. It's a military mask. So. No, I did not keep my head in there for 2 hours, Malcolm. So we are at closing. I want to thank you all for joining. I want to remind you all, you probably, the ones following us on right now, are do like, follow, and subscribe. If you want to buy any merch, go to our website. You just type us up. We're on all the channels. We are going to release another. Did we release an episode this week?
Episode 16 is getting ready to come out as soon as Nathan wraps it up. I just finished editing 17, my part, and got it to him. So we are still cranking out. And we just recorded episode 34.
Jesus, God, yes.
So we have a lot more Dragon. There's a lot more Dragonbane coming.
There might be a pause in the Dragonbane for something else, by the way.
Yeah,
for those of you who like to read out Matt's planning another iteration of Sex, Drugs, and Saving Throw with a different game system. I won't spoil that. Nathan, of course, wants to do the Twilight 2000, and which we are all looking forward to do, which was our starter. And Malcolm, Malcolm's bringing back Gold Sparrow. Right, Matt? He's bringing all that world back in a brand new gaming system with developed characters in a whole Tolkien-esque world that's going to be beautiful. And actually, he's going to do super.
I know it's Tolkien or more like Game of Thrones.
It was a little bit of both.
Yeah,
yes, you didn't know? You promised that. You promised that off the air, and we are holding you to it now. Congratulations. And I know you're trying to move and raise a small child and everything else is going on, but we don't give a fuck. We want you to suffer, bitch, suffer. So anyway, love you, man. Love you. So listen, guys, thank you. We've actually gone over. We, of course, enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to you guys and girls.
Yeah,
and
little do you all know, I don't know why we do it. We have it set for an hour, but I think consistently every single show, to include even last week when we had our guest, we turned off the stream and then we keep talking.
We had Adam for 20 more minutes. Adam gave so much, 20 more minutes of great insight, and we're like, we should have
so many
just kept
secrets.
going.
No, just
stuff that can never be told. It was like it was like the Ark of the Covenant. We can't expose it to you. But anyway, good night. Good night. Who's Carl? Good night, Darcy. Good night, everybody else who's listening.
Good night, everybody.
Wish you all the
Thank
best, and see you next week.
Yeah.